To all of my fellow brothers and sisters, peace be with you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. I am a nomad of Deseret, and today we're going to talk about some of the Gnostic Christianity origins and stuff like that. But first, if you are a subscriber on YouTube, please click the notification bell if you are a subscriber. And if you're not a subscriber, you're welcome to subscribe. But if you click the notification bell, it will tell YouTube that you want all my videos, not just the videos that they think that you want, because people have started telling me that they're not getting all my videos, and I hear that's the way to combat that. Or you can join me on BitChute or YouTube, where I also put all my videos now. With that out of the way, today we're going to talk about the true origins of Gnostic Christianity. Now, here's the problem. As history gets older and older, it gets harder and harder to verify. And we also have the problem of basically the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church was the form of Christianity that won out in the end. And so, having all the power, that means the Catholic Church made all the history books that are surrounding its creation. And the victors, as they say, get to write history. We have originally all we knew of Gnostic Christianity was from the Catholic Church. Thanks to the discovery of the Nag Hammadi scrolls and several other Gnostic texts, we know that, number one, the Catholic Church embellished a lot of its narratives about the Gnostics, and number two, the Catholic Church only focused on part of the Gnostics and ignored the other part. And the intent of that was to show the Gnostics as big sinners, which a part of them were, the libertine aspects of it, but there was other groups that were the exact opposite. Thanks to having the writings of actual Gnostic sects, we know that the Catholic Church did a lot of false propaganda against the Gnostics, which makes you question, how much do we actually know about the early history of the original churches of Christ from that time period? Now, if you do a quick search, a lot of people will tell you that Simon Majes is the founder of Gnosticism. And I believe that this is false. Simon Majes, his group called the Simonians, they do share a lot of Gnostics belief, and people think that Simon Majes is the founder of it. The truth is, we don't really know that much about Simon Majes either, and most of what we do know comes from the Catholic Church, so that puts it into big question. Now, of course, I'm not trying to say Simon Majes was a good person. He obviously wasn't. He went around pretending to be a new Christ, and he may have been the founder of the concept of what we call Docetism, or Docetism, which is the belief that Jesus and Christ are two separate beings, and that Christ entered into Jesus, and then that's when Jesus became Jesus Christ. And then before the crucifixion, Christ left Jesus, and Jesus was crucified while Christ made his escape. Now, of course, that's an evil apostate view, and that very likely did originate with Simon Majes. But here's the problem with understanding Gnosticism. There's so little known about its origin that all we can do is theorize about it. Now, when you look at the actual history of the early Christian church, there wasn't things like sex at the time in the way that we would understand it. There was just this large, unorganized Christian community, and they existed all over the Roman Empire. Now, here's the thing. What we would view as Gnostic Christianity existed side by side with what we would call Proto-Catholic Christianity. And by Proto-Catholic, I mean Christianity before the actual creation of the Catholic Church with the Nicene Creed. I believe that was 324 or 325 AD. And so before that time, there's the Proto-Catholic Church, and then after that, there's the real Catholic Church. And so these two groups existed side by side without any separation until around 150 AD, when these groups that we would call the Proto-Catholic sects started singling out those with Gnostic beliefs and expelling them from the community. And it was at that point in time, that around 150 AD, that we started to have a strong division between Gnostic Christianity and Proto-Catholic Christianity. Now, the main arguments for the origin of Gnostic Christianity is basically two schools of thought. Number one, and the original thought, was that Gnosticism was something that was external to Christianity and forced its way in. The second thought was that Gnosticism actually originated within Christianity and then later branched outward and got absorbed into other groups. Now, as more and more time goes by, we are proving more and more that the idea that Gnosticism was an external thought that forced its way into Christianity is false. And I'm going to give you my own theories on this, in that we now, because we have basically proven, at least to my satisfaction, I know there are going to be people out there that need more proof, but it has been proven to my satisfaction that Gnosticism was not an external thought that forced its way into Christianity, but it's something that developed within Christianity itself and then branched outwards to other groups. And the main reason why I say this is because if it was an external force that forced its way into Christianity, there would be clear lines of sectarianism. We did not see clear lines of sectarianism until around 150 AD, with the proto-Catholic leaders expelling those who had Gnostic beliefs from their communities. And this is one thing that shows us that it was a belief system that originated within Christianity, because it was all over Christianity, basically. And so the simple fact that it had to be rooted out and expunged from Christianity, instead of having two separate groups that went their own ways as a forced thought, I believe that shows that it certainly was an external, an internal thought that existed, that previously existed within Christianity. Now, I'm going to give you my own theory on what actually happened here. And in the beginning, we have the beginning of the Christian church. We have the 12 apostles. Jesus Christ taught a lot more after his death and resurrection, and the 12 apostles took that and began to go out into the world preaching the fullness of the truth of Jesus Christ. Now, as time went on, the apostles began to die off due to the persecution, and also by Christian communities started to reject certain apostles, and then eventually all the apostles were gone. And by there's some debate, but the Apostle John is supposed to have left this world around 95 to 98 AD, and the last thing he wrote was what we call the Gospel of John. And so by 100, let's just say by 100 AD, all the apostles were gone, and there was no one left to explain and teach these certain aspects of Jesus' teachings. Well, what happens when you don't have the ability to have authoritative leadership to explain these things? Well, you have people stand up who think they can explain things and think that they have certain knowledge, and they are going to stand up and start teaching people what they think based on those things. And so what we view as Gnostic Christianity is actually the attempt of people to explain things that they don't understand from the teachings of the apostles. And so, of course, what we're left with, the Nag Hammadi library is the largest collection of Gnostic Christian writings. But here's the problem: they were created around 250 AD, 300 AD. And so they're much newer texts. And so they're more likely to contain more of these explanations that people gave. And in addition to trying to explain things that they couldn't understand, they also came from all different backgrounds around the Roman Empire, and so their belief system started merging into with the original Christian thought, and as a result, we have all these different ideas that were added into Christianity, unfortunately. Now, what this means is that we can see a more original form of Christianity through these Gnostic writings, but the problem is that we can't just look at them and say, oh, look, all of this, because all of those texts that we have present are the result of people trying to explain things that they didn't understand, and the admixture of their foreign cultures into Christian thought. And so what we're left with is a lot of works that contain parts of the truth, but also contain things that the people didn't understand and that were added in later on and try to explain things that they didn't understand. Now, the proto-Catholic churches, their way of thinking was the exact opposite, whereas the Gnostic Christians, they were trying to make sense of things they didn't understand by adding in ideas. The proto-Catholics did the exact opposite. They took what they couldn't understand and removed it as being a foreign invention. Now, in the beginning, when I first started studying Gnosticism, I was under the impression that Gnosticism was more evil than the Catholic concepts. But as of late, I've decided, I've done a complete reversal. After more fully studying Gnostic texts, and mind you, I completely understand the corruption that is in it. But I'm now believing that Catholic Christianity was actually more evil than Gnostic Christianity, simply because they removed everything they couldn't understand. Now, by looking at things, I can see truth. It is easier to see truth by removing lies than it is to try to restore truth when it's been removed. Because through the Holy Spirit we can know the things. So I've actually been able to learn things from the Gnostic texts that I have come to understand, and and much to my surprise, well, I guess it wasn't actually that much of a surprise. I said to myself, if these things are true, I will see some semblance of it in these early writings. And sure enough, I did. And so it's a witness to something that extremely few people know about. And I'm not going to talk about it because it is a what we would call a mystery, and we're not supposed to talk about mysteries openly. Now, in saying all this, I'm not suggesting that you pick up Gnostic texts and start reading it. If you do that, you gotta make sure you read it with the Holy Spirit. I started the Light of the Restoration series because I wanted to show all these concepts that Joseph Smith restored to the earth, that they existed within early Christianity. Now, my Light of the Restoration series is almost done. By almost done, I mean I probably have 2 or 3 more months left of stuff to talk about. I started thinking about what should I do after that. Well, my thinking is that I actually want to take a look individually at each Gnostic text and to look at it from a scholarly perspective, whereas my intent will not be to necessarily try to find what is true and false, but just to point out what they believed as a historical understanding. Now, of course, I could change my mind, and of course, if I see something that I know is true, and that I can talk about, I will point that out. And of course, I'll also want to point out false things. But the full intent is would be to explain these things. So for those who are interested but do not want to pick up these texts and study them on their own, because if you're going to study these texts, you have to understand the Gnostic thoughts and the Gnostic interpretation of stuff. Otherwise, it's not going to make a lot of sense to you. And I've been studying this stuff for years, and so I can pick up any Gnostic text and read through it now without any problem of understanding. And I get a lot more out of it now because of the Lord has blessed me with like scribal abilities, and so like as I read stuff, I'm like the Spirit's like putting stuff into my head and like explaining stuff to me now. And so I like I said, I don't want to discourage you or to encourage you to pick up these Gnostic texts. But just note that when I pick up a Gnostic text, I can read it, and like the Holy Spirit is teaching me stuff as I read it. And if you don't have that ability, then it's not going to mean that much to you, except unless you're looking at it from a scholarly perspective. And so. I don't know when I'm going to start. I've actually started doing some of what I'm planning on doing already in preparation, and so I don't know how long. Yeah, it depends on the length of each text, but I have to go through it and point out all the things and stuff, and then make a video on it. And so that's going to be my next project. As the Light of the Restoration comes to a conclusion, because there's only so much I can talk about in a topic that way. But by talking about each individual Gnostic text, that opens up a whole nother door for stuff that I personally will think is interesting, assuming of course we have time and I'm still allowed to make videos. Now, one last thing that I want to talk about is the big difference between the Catholic doctrine and the Gnostic doctrine, and it is in the concept of God. Now, the Catholic concept of God is basically the Trinity, which is there's this unknowable God that has three manifestations of itself. And there's God the Father, then there's God the Son, and God the Spirit. And that these three are one, literally one. And so and from now on, from this point in time, I'm going to call all groups that believe in the Trinity Catholic, because that's what they are. It's a concept of Catholic origin, and it is not original to Christianity, contrary to their popular belief. Now, the Gnostic view of God is different in that they believe that God and the Spirit and Jesus are three separate individuals. Now, of course, the Gnostics will argue amongst themselves how exactly that works out. But it generally is there's this belief in this God that just was, and to us he's unknowable, but he created other beings that were like him. The first being a female aspect of himself that they call the Mother, or they gave her the name Barbello, and then through Barbello they created Christ. Now the Catholic Church completely eliminated that belief system, and so that would mean that if that was a true belief system, it would have to be restored to the earth. Now, ignoring all the Gnostic confusion, the beliefs of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints say that God the Father, Jesus Christ, and the Spirit are three separate individuals. Our theology also teaches that we have a Heavenly Mother, and that Jesus Christ and all of us are the spirit children of our Heavenly Father and our Heavenly Mother. Now, again, setting aside the Gnostic confusion, this is the basic exactness of what the Gnostic Christians taught. And so, from now on, I'm going to call all groups that believe in the concept that God the Father and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit are three separate individuals, I'm going to call them Restorationists, because it was a belief that was originally in the church but was removed by the Catholic Church and had to be restored to the earth. And of course, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is in this generation the first Christian church to promote that idea. Now, since then, there has been other groups that have promoted it, one being the Jehovah's Witnesses. They have a little bit similar belief system like that to us. In fact, they basically copied a lot of stuff from us, which is why it's similar. But we have, of course, we also have all these groups that broke off of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so I'm putting all of us into a group called Restorationists, and then everyone that believes in the Trinity are Catholics. And I know some people might not like that, but that's the origin of that doctrine. Now, I have no belief in the Catholic Church. I don't believe in. I believe that the Catholic Church has a lot of evil and wickedness in it. There's some good in it. There's good in all groups. But to me, Catholicism is a heterodox belief, and the Restorationists have a more orthodox belief. And of course, I believe that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the only church with the fullness of truth that the Lord has decided to give us so far. That doesn't mean that there's not more truth out there for the Lord to give us. And as I mentioned before in one of my videos, I believe actually that the Lord only restored a third of what he taught as a test to see if we were ready to accept more. But whatever the Lord gave us, that's important for us in our day. And that's how the Lord will judge this generation, based off of that. And then when the Lord sees that we're ready, he will give us more knowledge as we're ready to receive it. And so that's my theory on the origin of Gnosticism. Quick review: that it was an attempt to explain things that could not be explained after the removal of the apostles. And I leave this with you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.